So I watched an 11-year-old movie. Didn't realize how old it was, but as usual, movies are kind of timeless. Yeah, and it's remarkable. It's even 11 years old. But anyway, called Orphan, and it's quite chilling. Now, I actually watched Vera in Bates Motel first, and obviously as a series, she made much more of an impression there. Uh, but obviously, it's just there were some parallels, I suppose, somehow. I'm not sure if Bates Motel, in this sense, would have copied it, I assume, considering it came later. But that fight at the end there on the ice is obviously reminiscent of not so much. Um, there were some ice. There were some ice bits as well in Bates Motel. I don't think she was in a fight there on ice, but Romero was. But anyway, that's Bates Motel, so something different. This was quite something. It gripped me. It really didn't let go, and it began quite subtly. So for nearly a whole hour, it seems like there's nothing really. It doesn't make you think that there's anything wrong, which is I suppose always a good thing with horrors. I mean, there's most horrors these days begin too early anyway, and kind of like the countdown I watched recently. That's really substandard in comparison. Well, much more basic, I suppose. This was interesting, but it had some things amiss. I thought the thing with the paintings and the glow in the dark, so that was the coolest. Um, but with regards to something so like the fact I don't know the supposed twist at the end, I could have really not had it in there at all. I mean, when the doctor calls her and tells her that somehow she needs, um, I mean, it makes it seem like, he's telling her to call the police because she has some medical condition, and that's absurd, obviously. Um, but also the fact that, that somehow implying that they're blaming medical condition, is absurd in itself because obviously it's and it wasn't clear at all. I mean, it wasn't quite dwarfism, was it? So, and I mean, it's that really was the thing that didn't really make any sense, and it would have been better if they just didn't quite leave, put it there at all. Makes it made very little sense. I mean, sure, at the end, I could see what they were trying to do in terms of, she was obviously trying to appeal to the husband by looking as if she's grown up, and then she removed all the makeup, and she looked older essentially, but I'm not entirely sure that is really worth it. Honestly, it's a bit, yeah, just strange at the very least. But also, I mean, there shouldn't be an implication really that even with people, I'm assuming this is, um, it's absurd. I mean, and the actress was really born in '97, so it's absolutely absurd that somehow they made her look like she was 30 supposedly. It's unbelievable. Kind of ruined it just a bit, but one of those things where it just seemed to be such an oddity, the sort of the odd one out of. 'Cause otherwise, the cinematography was beautiful and such. Obviously ice always makes it feel chilly, and the story it begins slowly, but obviously then it's how it ends up, and at the end, obviously, as to be expected, there was a lot of violence, but I mean, otherwise the relationships she had with John and such made sort of some sense. Um, but yeah, and, at the end the status of the their male child wasn't made clear either. I'm not entirely sure whether he lived or not. Yeah. Also, another thing that I have doubts on was the fact that they specified a nationality. I didn't see the point of that. I mean, she did feign a Russian accent, but she's really American, so she's, uh, you know, at the beginning it wasn't very clear, and then she tried clearly to feign it. But I don't know why they even bothered. I could have just not said anything. I don't see the point of that. So this is the thing. These just small things that sort of chip away at something interesting. Yeah, and I don't get why they do it. I don't get it. Apparently, I watched Isabel Furman before in the Hunger Games. I don't quite remember her. Of course, it was actually apparently no, it was 3 years after apparently, so slightly older. But yeah, it is absurd though that somehow they try to make people think she's 30. Like seriously, what is this suddenly an absurd comedy in the middle of killing her husband, her son, and nearly her daughter and herself? I mean, it's absurd. That's the one thing that was really just bizarre. How somehow they try to, because otherwise it would still work, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't get why they try to blame it on someone who's trying to hide the fact that they're an adult. Really, I mean, what was And are they going to blame the fact that she knew the word fuck over the fact that she's an adult, as if somehow children somehow would absolutely never, could not possibly ever know that? It's absurd, honestly. But otherwise, it's one of those things, where you do feel a lot of what a movie is supposed to make you feel. In this case, horror. And there wasn't too much gore at the beginning either. It was this kind of horror that I really liked. It's so subtle, uh, shadow in the corner sort of horror. Uh, but obviously, the endings are always difficult for all movies, and it kind of failed it, but it really shouldn't have. I suppose makes no sense, but whatever. Um, Otherwise, still, it wasn't too bad though. Hmm.